lovely shot of the course here, the first hole on the Royal, and just so beautiful. We saw the Premier David Makura teeing off a little bit earlier here on the program. No pressure whatsoever. He only had about 5 cameras filming him doing it. So you can just imagine this poor man who's been playing golf for a year, having all of these eyes on him. And he did a damn good job. So well done to our Premier here in Gauteng. So we're continuing to talk about issues here at the African Union. And today is really for the African Union Foundation. It's a fundraiser. This is where a lot of businesses come together and they have paid money to play here at this golf course. And all of this money is going to the foundation. And we're going to find out what this money is actually used for, what work that the foundation actually does. It was established back in May 2013 by the heads of states and government with the intention of the next 50 years for the African course to power domestic resources. Well, joining us now is one of the board members on the African Union Foundation, Dr. Armany Asfour, based in Egypt. And Dr. Asfour sits on this on the board, as I mentioned. Her interest, of course, is in private business, but going beyond that when it comes to the continent. So nice to meet you, and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you. My real pleasure being here. It's such a lovely, lovely, lovely day.
It is. It's a beautiful day, a bit cold, but nonetheless, it is a beautiful day and a wonderful atmosphere. It seems that everybody's excited to be here, and hopefully a lot of money will be raised. But the big question is, what does the foundation actually do for the continent?
Well, actually, the African Union Foundation, established by a decision summit, actually, all the heads of state, they really realized that we have to have some domestic alternative resources to fund the priorities of our African continent. And celebrating our 50th anniversary of the African Union, which was the Organization for African Unity, which was a real establishment for the political representation of all Africa. Now the 50 years coming vision, which is Agenda 2063 for the Africa's development, is about the economic liberation for Africa and how we really empower our African private sector, how we have our real priorities of having a peaceful, prosperous, powerful, integrated, inclusive, independent Africa, driven by its citizens. So I think this today, this fundraising activity is a very, very crucial in order to explore the domestic resources for the AU Foundation with our priority areas, with reference to building the human resources of Africa, including women and youth, with reference to access to education, especially science and technology, and empowering our small and medium enterprises with science and technology to have the real backbone of our economy with our African private sector. Yeah. If we really link that with what's happening on the continent, last day we had the tripartite summit, which is linking in COMESA, the Common Market for East and Southern Africa, the East Africa Community, and the SADC together as a one free trade area with 26 countries. And the baseline is about free trade and area, but also about industrialization and infrastructure. Lovely. So if we are talking about our priorities in Africa, how to have an infrastructure, a network that we are really launching from Cairo to Cape. And I am happy that yesterday I was in Sharm, today I am in South Africa, so it's really implementing the treaty. How can the foundation help in alternative resources, in funding our priority areas to make it happen for the real people of Africa?
Yeah. Which is wonderful, and I think you're putting it all into practice because you are a doctor, you actually work with pediatric medical equipment, and what you're doing is trying to put this all into practice. And I imagine that is your business, but through the foundation, that's what we're hoping to achieve. But your business, what is it that you're actually doing when it comes to the medical supply and equipment in the continent?
Well, actually, if we see that there should be investment in healthcare and infrastructure for healthcare system. If we are really talking about maternal healthcare, still till now 1 every 15 women is dying during birth. This is not acceptable in the continent. We have to set up maternal health units all over Africa, in the rural areas. We have to have infrastructure so any woman can access any healthcare facility, any hospital, very easy. The whole issue is really about investment in our infrastructure, whether health, whether education, the building the capacity of our people in Africa, including the women, youth, even in the rural area. The quality of our African people is what we really matter. Yeah. And sometimes our African leaders say, we want to have Africa free from illiteracy, free from poverty, free from hunger. But I challenge her, say, no, our leaders, we need Africa to be well-nourished, not only free from hunger, well-educated, not only free from literacy, and very healthy, not only free from disease.
Indeed.
So in Africa, we own all the resources of the world. We have all the natural resources. We have the human resources. We are almost 1 billion people. Yesterday in Sharm, we launched the tripartite with actually 625 million people. It's a huge market with $1.2 trillion, the GDP of the 26 countries, including SADC, COMESA, and EAC. All these natural resources. Who is exploiting the natural resources of Africa? It has to be us, African people, who manage our own resources. We have to invest in our African brains and having scientific research and technology, transforming our continents and value-adding the raw materials. We have to have our end products.
Yeah.
We have to have our facilities. We have to invest in our people. We have to invest in the human resources and women and youth. This is the reality of why the African Foundation here stands in its first activity for resources, for actually raising funds. It's about the people. It's not about we have the natural resources, but we have to build our people to make it happen, to manage our own resources, to manufacture our own drugs, to manufacture our agri-industry. It's not possible that our raw materials go and then we import it after value addition. Yeah. We have to increase the role of women in agriculture, in agribusiness, increase the value chain, how the African private sector have a big role in the value chain.
Indeed. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you so much. I think that you've touched on so many vital issues that it's amazing that everybody that I've spoken to this morning has repeated the same thing. So it really does appear that you're all on the same page. Dr. Armany Asfour from Egypt, thank you so much for talking to us, and enjoy the beautiful day here in South Africa.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Good. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. So as you can see, that's the foundation. That's the work that they do. And it's all about not necessarily just the business interests at heart here, but there's just so much more to it. So let's continue to focus in on business, and we are now going to be joined by somebody from the private sector. The preamble of the AU Constitutive Act recognizes, and I quote here, the importance of building partnerships between government and all segments of civil society, in particular women, youth and the private sector, in order to strengthen solidarity and cohesion amongst our people. That's what it says here in the Act of the AU. So to talk a little bit more about this and perhaps bring us some more understanding is Dr. Danisa Baloyi. She is part of those representing the private sector here at this function. Nice to have you. Welcome to the program.
No, thank you very much, Leah. And here representing the private sector, in particular the Black Business Council. We partnered with the AU to put this together, and we're happy it turned out so well.
Good. It's a lovely turnout today. It really is, because I suppose when you have a good turnout like this, and then this is a good reassurance that the private sector is behind the AU. Let's talk about the private sector's commitment to the building of the African continent and the AU as an organization.
Yes, the AU has come up with Vision 2063, and I think governments can do so much. Without the private sector, there is going to be no reality to that. So it is important for the private sector in South Africa and the rest of the continent to join hands together. We're just happy to be the hosts. However, we understand that the solution to the African continent needs all of us, all the countries, to come together, form partnerships with their governments. The governments can create the environment for the business to thrive, but the private sector has to play its role.
Yeah. The big thing that everybody seems to be talking about, and everyone I've spoken to from the private sector and business, is the infrastructure. To do business within Africa for the private sector, it's the infrastructure that seems to be the biggest deterrent. From your perspective, do you agree with this? Where do you find more work needs to be done?
Roads, rail. There is no point in trying to do business if you can't move from one country to the other. The vision is that we have to create a clear route from Cape to Cairo, and unless the rail infrastructure is in place, proper rail infrastructure, proper road infrastructure, we can build buildings, but if we can't conjoin them through the infrastructure, it won't really get us to the result. If you look at developed nations, the reason why it's it's seamless to do business. It's because the countries can connect.
Yeah.
In Africa, we struggle to do that. If you look, I'll take mining, for instance. If you mine, say, in South Africa, or you mine in Mozambique, or you mine in Zambia, to get the goods from the mine to the ocean, or to get the goods to where it needs to be beneficiated is a struggle today. But I think the plans that we have, and we're lucky that our President Zuma is chairing the Infrastructure Committee for the African Union. He is driving this. He's forever telling us as the private sector in South Africa that we have to participate, join hands, form partnerships with our brothers and sisters in the rest of the continent to make sure that it becomes a reality. Unless we do that, it won't work. The siloed attitude of most of us on the continent has to go away. Yeah. We need to understand that as a united front in business, we will be able to achieve our goals. We continuously say we export jobs by taking our raw materials offshore to other countries where they create jobs for those people. However, if we come up with a plan that all of us work together, we know that we will beneficiate on the African continent. A lot will change. A lot of jobs will be created, and Africa will move forward.
It really will.
Because we can't say Africa is rising if the private sector is not active, is still not controlled, it's not in African hands. We have to make sure that African business take control of business on the continent first and foremost, like we see with our counterparts when we go all over the world. It is them first and we come and become partners. Here they come and they take control. We have to change that so that the Africans themselves make sure that they are in charge of their destiny, and everybody else who comes in join us to make it work.
I think those are powerful words to end this broadcast on. Thank you for talking to us here on the program. Dr. Danisa Baloyi, representing the private sector. Thank you so much for being our guest here on the program. So, I mean, that's really, in a nutshell, what it's all about. I mean, when you are doing business on this African continent, we keep on saying we're open for business. We certainly are, but we need to control that business. We can't have other people coming in and controlling it. And I do think Dr. Baloyi is speaking some really courageous words there, and words that need to be adhered to. Thank you for watching. Thanks so much for being with us here on this beautiful yet chilly morning out in Linksfield at the Royal Golf Course. All of our golfers ready, most of them. Oh, well, I suppose the first group have already gone off. It's now up to the second group that'll be teeing off in a couple of minutes as well. It's been good being here. I hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. We're back with you bright and early on Monday morning. Take care, everybody. Shap, shap. Eight tada from all of us here.